right, thank you so much, everybody. Hi, my name is Clara Alcon. I'm a member of the Yale College class of 2021, as well as the Activities Committee here at the club. You're fine. I have the great pleasure to introduce our wonderful speakers here tonight. We have with us Juliana Canfield, Yale College class of 2014 and MFA 2017. After 4 seasons on HBO's hit drama Succession as Jess, yes, big applause, I loved it too. As Jess, the trusted personal assistant to the chaotically ambitious elder brother Kendall, played by fellow Yaley Jeremy Strong, Juliana moved to Broadway, breathing life into the character of Holly, a stoic keyboard vocalist in the off-Broadway play Stereophonic. The off-Broadway sensation moved to the Broadway stage and garnered Juliana a Tony nomination for Best Actress and won the cast the Drama Desk Award for Best Ensemble. Yeah, it was really good. Applause for sure. The play won 7 Drama Desk Awards and was nominated for 13 Tony Awards, the most nominations in Tony's history, and it ultimately took home 5 Tonys. We're very excited to talk to her tonight about her life from Yale to the stage. And in conversation with her, we are very, very honored to have James Bundy, renowned American theater director and dean of the David Geffen School of Drama at Yale. Did I do it right? Perfect. Please join me in welcoming Juliana and James to the Yale Club tonight.
Thank you, Claire. I'm going to kick things off by just saying what an incredible joy it is to be sitting next to Juliana Canfield.
I feel the same way, James.
My job tonight is really to first make sure my phone is silenced, and second to Juliana and I have talked, and we've agreed that we're just going to improv this. So I want to start by asking, because you're a Yaley, you're a wonderfully successful actor. Which came first? Did you know you wanted to be an actor? When did you know you wanted to be an actor?
The Yale journey and the acting journey kind of took root around the same time. I grew up mostly in Washington, D.C., but before I moved there, I lived in the suburbs of New York, and there was a children's Shakespeare company there called the Children's Shakespeare Company, and all of the kids in the neighborhood participated in it. It was like our soccer team. And I did my first play when I was 7. I was in As You Like It. And I played Jaques DeBoeuf, who is often cut from productions because it's a part with 13 lines or something like that. But I did that play in the first grade and felt immediately that I knew what I wanted to do with my life. And I remember asking my mom where the best actors learned to become as great as they were, and she told me that they went to the Yale School of Drama. And so I have diaries from when I'm in 2nd, 5th, 8th, 11th grade where I say, I want to go to Yale College and study theater, and then I want to go to the Yale School of Drama. And so that's just a, advertisement for writing a diary and manifesting your dreams from a young age. Yeah.
So you could all go and revise your own diaries.
Yeah. Or, just think 30 years in the future. What do you want in 30 years? And start putting little pictures of it in your journal.
Wow. Okay. So you follow through on this, and then you get to Yale College.
Which one?
Yale
College.
Mm-hmm. And in what ways were you surprised by what you found there?
Well, that's such a huge question, because for those of you in the many of you left home when you went to college, so you know the kind of total world shift that kind of independence and stimulation and constant unsupervised time with teenagers can provide. But I think, one thing that I went to Yale with a very strong idea that I wanted to be an actor, and the thing that I found in the college was that my closest friends and my most treasured academic experiences had nothing to do with theater. I think back on the theater studies program with a lot of fondness, but more importantly, I feel like the classes I took in directed studies, or that I took in art history, or that I took in creative writing gave me a kind of material that's been more useful than those acting classes were or have been for my life as an adult and as an actor.
And so there are, as many people in the audience may know, there are typically over 200 theatrical productions on campus, just undergraduate productions in any given year. So were you doing tons of those, or were you?
Well, my freshman year, I had a friend who was a senior who had gone to the boys' school affiliated with my high school, and he was in an improv group called Just Add Water, which is a musical improv group started by Joe Miller and Steve Bodow, who went on to write for The Daily Show and are extremely professionally funny individuals. And Will Steven encouraged me to audition for the group. And I was so scared. I really didn't want to. It was week 2. I was like, oh my God, do I want to be in the improv group? Like, do I want all my friends to be just cracking jokes all the time? And, oh God, it seemed a little overwhelming. But I ended up auditioning, and I was in Just Add Water for 4 years. I ended up being the director my senior year. And thank you very much. And it was musical improv and short form and long form, and it was very wacky. And that's what I did freshman year. I was like, I got to do my homework, and I can't be doing rehearsals, which, as many of you might know, go late into the night, and I have to get good grades so that my parents are proud of me. And so I just did that freshman year, and then I started sort of dipping my toe in to productions. I think I probably did like 4 a year for sophomore through senior year. But I think there were people who did more. I kind of had a light load.
Yeah, and it's pretty uncommon to go straight from the college to the drama school. But given that was in the diaries,
you got to listen to the diaries. Well, also when I was applying, I was my homepage was basically the Yale School of Drama website. I was like really clued in to what was going on, but sort of incognito, because I didn't want you guys to know that I wanted to go to the school so badly. But I knew that in the third year class, when I was applying, there were 3 Yale college grads, 1 or maybe 2 of whom had gone straight through. So I thought, okay, there's a precedent. This is possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that was an early audition experience.
Yeah, it was like
good. The thing I would say is, did you? Let me just ask: did you apply anywhere else besides Yale?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
So do you want to know where, or do you not care?
I no longer care. I would have cared a lot. I think
we talked about it at the time, James.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. But did we fight for you? Did we fight?
Well, so I had a boyfriend at the time who was living in New York. So I know. It was a very close call.
Yeah.
I really thought, I got to go to drama school in New York so I can keep this man. And I was writing in my diary. I have a lifelong attachment to diary keeping. Before the auditions, like, I think I want to go to Juilliard, or maybe I want to go to NYU, but if I don't get into either of those, then I'll probably go to Yale. and then I went to the callback weekend at Yale, where I introduced myself to you as James. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
I said, "Hi, I'm James," and then I was like, "No, you're James. I'm Juliana." Oh God. And then I passed away.
Yeah.
No, but at that weekend, the school puts up all of the prospective students at the Study, which is the very nice fancy pants hotel right in town. And I finished my callback process, and I went back to my room and I wrote in my diary, and I was reading it on the way home. And my handwriting is, if I do say so myself, pretty neat, nice cursive. But the entry that I saw from the sort of culmination of the callback weekend, it looked like the handwriting of a 7-year-old. And it was like, I have to go to Yale. I can't go anywhere else. I need to go to this school. This is the place that I need to be. And I was like, okay, so that's a very sort of primal, animalistic voice coming out of me. And I will not be going to Juilliard, and I will not be going to NYU. And I crossed my fingers and my toes, and it all worked out.
Yeah. And so, well, I want to get on to your extraordinary professional career shortly, but just so a word that sums up your then Yale School of Drama, now David Geffen School of Drama experience.
Oh, one word?
You as many as you want.
Oh man, it's hard to. I can't even. That school and the teachers that you brought there and the students you brought there changed my life completely. It was, I love school. I love school. I spent most of my life in school, even now, percentage-wise. And the experiences that I've had at the drama school gave me the kind of satisfaction and pride and like fundamental challenge that I kind of imagine I had when I was like learning how to read. It was just so altering of the way I used my brain, the way I expressed myself, the way I carry myself through the world. It was just a total experience that is characterized in my memory by joy, most of all, and gratitude.
Well, the feeling is mutual.
Oh, thanks, James.
Your teachers adore you, and I think there's this thing that sometimes happens when Yale College alums come through the drama school, which is that everything that Juliana talked about the other interests, right, that she had in the world, and the experiences outside the theater, and I would say the astonishing ability and dedication of Yale College undergraduates to learning those things matched with the kind of insistent physicalized playfulness of the drama school become this extraordinary accelerator of creativity, particularly among people who have educations and imaginations and dedication as you do. So,
oh man,
thanks,
James.
So you leave school. Do you want to talk about Showcase at all and like the what that thing is like? Because I imagine a lot of these people don't know about that experience.
Maybe some of you don't know what Showcase is. Okay, so Showcase, formerly known as the Leagues,
yes.
which people still say, how are your leagues? And I'm like, wow, you graduated in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
That's an old school term. But Showcase is this it's kind of a variety show organized by the school for the third-year actors, wherein the actors perform scenes from plays or more recently television shows or movies for industry professionals in New York and then in Los Angeles. And after, the Showcase is necessary, but it's quite a shocking experience. It's like 3 years of being in drama school in a warm bubble bath of communal creativity and support and individual attention. And then it's like, okay, we're opening the gates and we're pushing you into this freezing cold ocean of insecurity and despair and competition and no. But all that being said, I had a pretty good experience with it. I did a scene from a Brian Friel play called The Lovers, and then one from a play called Fishbowl by a playwright whose name is eluding me. And I was very lucky. I got an agent and a manager out of Showcase, which not everyone, most people in my class did, but not everybody did. But it was the first time, I remember we had a class with Ellen Novak, who taught on camera class and also like a professional preparation class, which in which she sort of went through each student and told us what she thought our types were and what kind of roles that we would be encouraged or expected or to play or what we would be cast as. And it was after years of being in school where I was playing an old lady or a little girl or a man or I don't know, all number of things, and we were really encouraged at every turn to stretch away from our type. Suddenly we were getting rubber banded back into how the world sees all of us, which was jarring. But I also think that in a way there's kind of a relief in it because school was designed to be challenging and often demoralizing. We were asked to do things that are almost physically or vocally impossible for us to do. And then there's this moment in Showcase where we're reminded of the strengths and the characteristics that we have innately, the things we get for free. So we've spent all this time building up our reservoir and our toolbox of extra things or things we have to work harder to get to, and then there's this moment where you get to return to who you are. And I guess that's kind of a snazzy way to spin it psychologically.
So these performances that happen in front of these agents are notable because if those performances were offered in front of you, there'd be tons of laughter and joy in the room. And mostly what you hear in front of agents is the scribbling of pencils on paper, like people making notes about whether or not they're going to interview the actor.
Yeah, and then, this is the worst part. Ellen Lang, who's the administrator at my time there, she would send out this email to everyone in the class. But I think it was a group email. I think everybody saw everything. So you would see...
That was a mistake.
Well... Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Maybe we just all talked about it. And in the email, it would say which casting directors wanted to meet with you, which managers wanted to meet with you, which agents wanted to meet with you, if any projects wanted your headshots or your resumes. And so very quickly, there's this sense that we're no longer in a democracy where James and Walton Wilson are ensuring that each student gets an equitable share of casting. It was like, okay, this is feeling a little different from New Haven.
Yeah, it's the real world of show business. But I'll just contextualize it. So it sounds like people sort of drop off the edge of the earth if Showcase doesn't go well. But
not true.
But I'll tell you one example. In 1983, back when it was the League auditions. So the League was the League of Professional Theater Training Programs, which was ultimately disbanded because it was in violation of antitrust laws. But
come on.
But in 1983, in those days in 1983, they used to literally post all the results on one bulletin board so everybody could see everybody's results.
Okay.
And 3 students in 1983 got 0 interviews with agents. And those 3 students went out and drank a lot.
Totally.
And their names were Charles S. Dutton, John Turturro, and Angela Bassett.
Okay.
So it is just one day in the life of an actor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. What was I just? Oh yeah. Well, I'm watching Severance, and every time John Turturro comes on screen, it's just. I forgot he went to Yale. Oh, he's the best. What a darling actor.
Yeah, he's fabulous.
Darling actor.
So now, in the short time we have, I want to talk about, and I'm sure other people want to hear you talk about Succession and Stereophonic, but I just want to note that very early in your career, you did some really hot shit work at Theater for a New Audience. I'm thinking of two things in particular, Fefu and Her Friends,
Yep.
and He Brought Her Heart Back in a Box.
Yep.
And I'm naming those because He Brought Her Heart Back in a Box is by the great playwright Adrienne Kennedy. And it was a 45-minute play, and it's still one of my all-time favorite New York theater experiences.
Wow, thanks, James.
Yeah, it was because you and Tom Pasinka, who you ended up working with in Stereophonic, had this incredible relationship that I think is sort of emblematic of when actors have chemistry. But I wondered if you could talk about that, as there you are, here you are braving New York, and you're making your way, and you're doing these plays that are, Fefu and Her Friends is by Maria Irene Fornes, an incredibly formally inventive play that's happening in multiple rooms at the same time. The audience gets to walk among them. So can you talk about those pretty out there, adventurous experiences you had in the theater?
Sure. They were adventurous. But there was also an element with both of those productions that felt very familiar because of who directed them. He Brought Her Heart Back in a Box was my first play in New York when I graduated, and it was directed by Evan Yanulis, who was one of our... Really? She was in your class? Oh, wow. She was my acting teacher at Yale. And Tom Pasinka was a third year when I was a first year. We had, from my end, a slightly contentious relationship in graduate school. That's a story for another time that James knows about a little bit. But nonetheless, he was a familiar face. And Fefu and Her Friends was directed by Liliana Blaine Cruz, who graduated, I think, the year before I got there to Yale. But so there was those two playwrights are the kind of playwrights who you study or who I studied in school, and I thought if I could be so lucky as to do a professional production of one of these, it was sort of like a bucket list type of dream, maybe when I'm 60 or 70 or 99, I'll have done plays by these two titans of American theater. And I think there are so many plays that are being written every year, every day, and many of them are very good, but I sort of have a soft spot in my heart for classic work or classical work or sort of canonical work, even if it's experimental. There's a kind of rigor to the language and a pithy need for every word that's said that feels really related to the Shakespeare class that you taught when we were at Yale. And being in those plays, even though they're formally out there, there's a real sense of security in the intentions and choices of the writer, and I find that to be such a relief in a rehearsal process, which is so often kind of ego-dissolving and chaotic, knowing that the play has real bones to it and that writer was intentional and thoughtful and that their work has stood the test of time. That's a kind of life raft for me.
Yeah, and I would just say that watching you in both of those plays, which are so formally rigorous, you are the kind of actor, Diane Weiss talks about being able to find freedom within the form. And I really appreciate that about you. And I'm going to use that term as a way to segue into...
Very nice segue.
So you get... how did Succession happen for you?
Okay, so Doug Abel is a casting director. He also runs the Vineyard. And he brought me in after the showcase to audition for something, and I so tanked that audition. But I guess I was sort of nice and charming in the room. And so he kept bringing me in, and he brought me in. For those of you who have watched Succession, you might remember the character Willa, who plays Connor's high-end call girl turned girlfriend turned wife. And I got an audition appointment to play Willa, to audition for Willa. And I read it, and I was like, this is so wrong. This is so not the type that Ellen Novak gave me in class. I don't even know what to wear for this audition. So it was high summer. I was like, I really didn't know what to wear to play call girl for an audition. I looked in my closet. I was like, okay, I have a little cotton camisole and blue jeans and ballet flats that kind of match. So I guess I'll wear that and put on a little extra makeup. And so I went in for that audition, and the whole time I was just internally shaking my head, thinking, this is so humiliating. I can't do this. And I left the audition, and I got a call from my agent right away that said, okay, so Doug Abel thinks that you're not right for the part. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm really not right for the part to play Alan Ruck's call girlfriend. But Doug said, we want to bring her in for another part. There's a character called Jay who's going to be a political assistant to Shiv, Sarah Snook's character. And I said, yeah, that sounds way more up my alley. I know how to talk about politics. And I went in for that the next day. And then I got a call. I was doing a workshop of Evanston Saltcoster climbing at the White Heron Theater on Nantucket. Play written by Will Arbery, wonderful playwright, and directed by Dustin Wills,
Yes.
who also went to the Yale School of the David Geffen School of Drama at Yale.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I was feeling really down in the dumps. It was October. I'd been out of school for 6 months. I hadn't gotten a job yet. I thought, oh my God, it's not going to happen. I was despondent. And I remember writing my grandmother a note card saying, is it possible to have a midlife crisis when you're 24? And that night, I got a call from my agents, and they said, we're so excited, you're gonna play, and you're gonna play that part in Succession. And I said, Jay? And they said, no, you're gonna play another part, Jess. And I said, okay, great. I mean, sounds good to me. And so that's how I got the part.
Yeah, that's and then when did you realize that this thing was blowing up? And
I thought it was so funny. I'd never been on a set before, but I would go to the video village, which is where all the monitors are, and the director and the producers and everyone sits there. And I would go and watch it, and I would just laugh. I was just laughing all day. I thought it was so funny. And I said, I didn't know this was a comedy. It's an hour long, and it takes place in an office. It's not really adding up to me. And so the whole first season, we were all the cast would get together, and we thought, it's really well written, and the cast is so good, but it's a little confusing. I don't know that people are really going to understand how they're supposed to feel about this. I mean, is it a drama? Is it a family drama? Is it a comedy? Is it a satire? And for the most part, I think television is quite clear in its intentions. So I actually felt a little nervous with the first season as we were shooting it. I was so proud to be a part of it, but I thought, I don't know how this is going to land. And I think it actually wasn't until the second season that I really felt that it had taken on a kind of viral life among TV watching Americans and, TV watchers around the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Because there's been, quite a bit of coverage in the press about the different perspectives on acting among the cast, right?
Oh God.
Do you think? No, this is a serious question.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Do you think that those kind of queries around, like, what are we in, like, how is this going to land, that sense that it may have had something to do with the different perspectives on how people did their work, or do you think that's kind of an unrelated phenomenon?
Well, I think the show is so checkered and has such clearly drawn characters who are always at odds with one another. So when they cast the show, they did it with that in mind, or they hoped that they were doing it with that in mind. And the result was a group of people who come at acting from very different perspectives. But I think, yeah, I do think that there's something about the tone of the show that necessitated that tapestry of characters who are also different from one another and at such odds with one another. And that's where some of the comedy comes from and where much of the drama comes from. So I think they do kind of operate hand in hand, although I don't know which came first or how, but yeah.
And so Stereophonic, gigantic Broadway hit, not necessarily what you thought that was going to be when you went into it either. Can you talk about how you arrived at that off-Broadway extraordinary experience? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Stereophonic was kind of a famous play in New York for years before it was produced. Everyone was always talking about this play with music from the 70s and sex and drugs and rock and roll, and there were always these readings happening of it, and I was sort of like, why am I not getting an audition for this? Like, why aren't they asking me to come and do the readings? Or why didn't they were supposed to do a production on Broadway right before the pandemic, and I didn't get an appointment. And I was sort of salty about it, but also very intrigued. David Adjemi, who wrote it, had done a production of his play, Marie Antoinette, at the Yale Rep when I was in college, and I didn't see it, but I saw, the posters, and they looked really cool. And I thought, and he has such a great reputation as a very smart, thoughtful, emotionally driven writer. So I really wanted in on it. And then COVID happened. And when things were starting to go back into casting again, I was taking a walk with a friend, and she told me that she had just gotten a copy of the play Stereophonic in her inbox, and she was hoping to audition for it. And I was like, oh, that's very nice. That's amazing. And I got home, and I called my theater agent, and I said, okay, Alice, so I'm hearing that Stereophonic is back on the table, and I'm not getting shut out of it this time. I want to go in. Please. Please. It's like the only play I can imagine where the type of singing I do is good enough or right enough. And I love singing. I'm constantly singing, but I'm not a Broadway belter. So please just put my name in the hat when auditions come around. And I ended up she was like, okay, got it. And then a couple weeks later, they were doing a reading of it, of the book without the songs at Playwrights Horizons, and they offered me the part that I ended up playing for the reading. And I didn't really think of it as an audition, which was kind of naive of me, but thankfully I didn't think of it as an audition because I went in with, relatively little anxiety about reading this 3.5-hour long play. And we read the play with many of the people who ended up being cast in the production. And I guess it went really well because they called my agents and they said, well, Juliana did a nice job in the read, but before we can offer her the part, we just have to make sure she can sing. And my agents told the team that I could sing. They said, yeah, she can sing. And they said, okay, well, just to be sure, because she has to play a rock star, and she has to sing, there are songs that she really has to be able to sing, so let's not find out on day one of rehearsal that she has like a very bad voice. So can you just get her to put a song on tape? And so I got asked to put a song on tape, which I put off for 1 month. 1 month. Because singing is so scary. Ann Tolfemeyer, sitting right here, was my singing teacher. And she knows that in drama school, half the time when a student gets up to sing a song, they burst into tears halfway through. They kick the piano because they get filled with an inexplicable anger. So I really put it off. Well, so when I finally did it, because they really were like, we're about to pass on you and ask someone else. I was like, okay, I have to do this. My boyfriend left the apartment. I was like, are you going to be gone all day? He said, yes. I said, perfect. So I went through 4 songs and it just wasn't working. Every take was just midway through the song, I would mess up and scream the F word at the top of my lungs. I finally did Landslide, which is a Fleetwood Mac song, and that took a bunch of takes too, but I finally sent it in. And I said to my agent, is this so embarrassing to send in? Can I really send this in? And she was like, Juliana, it's really good. It's really good. You did a good job. We're gonna send it right away. And they sent it in and they were like, okay, yeah, she could do the play. Can she play the piano? And I said, yeah, I can play the piano. And that was a little more of a check. Well, I talked to the music director on the phone and he said, okay, so can you play the piano? I was like, yeah, I played till I was 18. Can you send me the sheet music so I can look at it? He sent it to me. I said, yeah, this will be no problem. And he said, okay, great. So we'll talk to you soon. And I called my mom after and I said, Mom, I think I'm going to do this play, and I just spoke with the music director, and he asked if I could play piano, and I said, yeah, I played till I was 18. She was like, Juliana, you played till you were 12. I said, really? She said, yeah. We forced you to play until you were 12. You really would have quit when you were 9 if you'd had your druthers. So, and I said, oh, well, okay. Guess I'm gonna get a piano teacher. And that's what I did.
Fabulous.
Yeah, very helpful amnesia or, memory editing.
So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to start letting the audience ask questions. But I just want to, before we do that, anything you're excited about that you're working on right now or that's coming up for you? Or
Well,
any cool diary entries?
yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, actually, in a way. So a key player in those early elementary school dreams was my neighbor in New York. Her name is Anna. And she's my oldest friend, and we were like, we're going to be actresses, and we're going to go to Yale, and we're going to go to the Yale School of Drama, and then we're going to take turns winning the Academy Award for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress every year, except we'll take every third year off to give somebody else a chance. So that was the pact, and she sort of took a slightly different route to become an actor, but she too is a professional actress, and we got sent this script that's like a little buddy comedy for a movie, and we're producing it, and we're going to shoot it this spring if all goes well and we get the money.
That is
so. It's my oldest friend, and she's like, I really credit her somewhat for putting the. What are those called, at the fireplace? The bellows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of the bellows for that whole dream that I had. And she kind of validated it and encouraged it. And, yeah, now we're going to do a movie together.
That's marvelous.
Yeah.
Marvelous. Questions out here in the Claire has a mic that she can pass to you so that everybody can hear. I see a hand back there, Claire. Okay, that one too.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi, Greer. How are you? It's so good to see you, too. We were in the same class in college.
Thank you for speaking to us. Everything has been great, and it's so fun to hear about your experience. Something I'm curious about, this isn't totally a new phenomenon, but I think being an actor and having the kind of success that you've had means that you have become more and more a person in the public. And in today's world, that seems like a tremendous challenge to me. I was wondering if you can speak about what that experience has been like, how you think about it, how you sort of protect yourself from what it would be like to live in the internet, and any other reactions you have.
Whoa. Yeah. I do think that actors and other kinds of performing artists, especially, but also many artists, feel a tremendous amount of pressure to like create a brand or like a personality that exists outside of and beyond the person you are and the work that you actually do. And I don't know, it's not, there's pressure to do that, and there's also incentive to do it, I think, professionally, because so much of the kind of cocktail chatter that might have once happened in a bar or at a restaurant happens on Instagram in your DMs. And I've gotten jobs or gotten close to jobs because I get messaged by someone who's involved with the project, and that's like the way it happens. But I think that kind of engagement also opens you up to a huge social and civic responsibility that a lot of actors or people aren't really equipped to handle. And I count myself among them. I get nervous about the way that I behave or act on the internet, because I think there are so many ways that whatever you say can be taken against you, or you say something about one cause and you don't say something about another cause, and then you get slaughtered, and then you have to do now there's like jokes about the notes apology posts, and it becomes a cycle of how can you do enough if you start to go that route. So yeah, I think the internet for everybody it's like a big old Pandora's box of mistakes that the public in general are sort of waiting for you to make. Or, one day it's not a mistake and then the next day it is, or you made a mistake before and then it comes back. And so I feel a little nervous about how I'm pretty conservative with how I talk about things on the internet. And then in general, maybe that's part of what you were asking about. And then, I don't know, things are going pretty well for me, but I'm not getting hounded by like paparazzi, and like nobody cares when I go to the grocery store. Actually, very funnily, people often think that they're like, I live in Cobble Hill, and I'll get stopped by someone walking down the street, and they'll be like, "Hey, did you go to Deerfield?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Really? Are you from? Well, where are you from? New York? Are you from Cal?" And I'm like, "Oh, they kind of recognize me from Succession, but they don't totally know that that's what it is, and they think that I grew up with them," which is very sweet. So I have a very sort of light version that feels quite innocuous of getting stopped in public or feeling like my privacy is being infringed upon. And for the most part, honestly, if I were a different actor, a more successful one, or one who had, if I were in like a very famous celebrity relationship, then maybe people approaching me would feel invasive. But I honestly, as of yet, knock on wood, I find it quite flattering when someone says that they like me on the show, or better yet, if they saw a play that I was in. I always like it when I get stopped about plays.
This question back here, Claire, can you see? Thanks.
Hello,
Hey.
My name is Perry.
Hi, Perry.
I'm actually a Dartmouth grad, which I know I'm like an outsider of this Yale group, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I guess I'm curious, Juliana, about your experience, like being on sets, maybe like with Succession or with Stereophonic, of like people who have these like crazy resumes. and you show up and you're also amazing. However, you like show up and you're like, oh my God, it's like whoever it is that's like had this amazing body of work, and you're like supposed to be like next to them, and you know, you're in a scene together and whatever, and you're supposed to like be cool. Like, I'm curious, like,
how do you be cool?
Like, be cool. I'm curious, like, what that experience is like for you. Of like, you show up to work and you have such an amazing resume, but you show up to work with these people who are like been doing this for so long,
like legends,
and are so accomplished. Like, how do you approach that? And like, is it treating everyone the same, or is it like how do you specifically approach that? I guess I'm sort of curious. Like, you have this amazing resume today. When you show up to these projects that you've done, I'm curious like what that feels like to you and how you've like tackled that experience like day to day.
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, one of my favorite things I think about being an actor is that you're constantly being exposed to people of all different ages, from all different walks of life, and everybody got to this job and this business in a different way. And so as an actor, for the most part, you don't work on projects unless you're on like, you know, Gossip Girl or something, where everybody is your age and you're all, you know, 21 and you're all going to the bar after and you're all like dating each other and whatever. Usually you're on a job with a really heterogeneous group of people, and you end up spending a lot of time with them. And I love that. When I'm on a job with people who have been acting for 30 or 40 or 50 years, it's like the biggest gift, and it feels it's like having a secret key into this whole treasure trove of information and lore and story. So I think I do try to kind of play cool, but I also really try to use those opportunities where I'm sitting with Brian Cox or with J. Smith Cameron, or I did a show with Diane Lane, or, you know, a bunch of people who have been doing this for a long time. I really try and ask them about their history and their past, and, you know, if they have any crazy stories from back in the day when no one had cell phones and people were feeling a little looser. And there's just, it's so many cast dinners, like with Succession. I remember being in upstate New York, and Jay was there, and Brian Cox was there, and Cherry Jones was in those episodes. And we just sat down at dinner, and they just traded war stories from like a combined century of theater work. And I mean, it would have been rude of me to do so, but I should have recorded it because there were some really good stories. And I learned a lot. You know, it's juicy and fun and kind of like harmless gossip because it's not live, many of the stories they were telling. But it's also so educational. And so I just try and use those opportunities to learn, and I just feel so lucky to have friends who are people who have been doing this for a long time now.
I'm going to ask you later if Brian Cox told you anything about Super Troopers, because I'm obsessed with that movie.
Okay, no, he didn't.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now.
We have time for about one more question. If there's a, yes, right there.
Hi, I'm John Maynard Harris, Yale Club.
Hi, John.
Yaley. First, my favorite scene with you was when you resigned.
Oh.
We love that scene. We love that scene, and we all loved you. But
I hated doing that scene.
It looked uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about working with Jeremy Strong, fellow Trumbulian. How was that?
Oh, wow. I didn't know he was in Trumbull. Very fun. I was in Branford, if anyone cares. I loved working with Jeremy. On my first day on the set, I was like a bundle of, it wasn't even nerves. I was so excited I was bouncing off the walls. I was like bouncing up and down, and oh my God, a crafty table, and wow. And I went up to the director and I said, oh, thank you, Mark, for thank you so much for casting me in this. This is my first role and my first time on a TV set, and I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for trusting me, and blah, 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 blah. And then right before we were starting the day, Mark got on a microphone to the whole room in this hospital where we were shooting and said, everyone, I just want to make an announcement that this is Juliana Canfield's very first time on a television set. She's never done this before, so let's give her a round of applause. And I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. Actually, I'm going to quit. This is so humiliating. And he said, she went to Yale College and she went to the Yale School of Drama. And I was like, oh my God, it's like my grandma's like bragging about me at Christmas or something. This is horrible. So, I like scurried out of the room and went into a hallway, and Jeremy came up to me and he sat down next to me and he said, oh, so you went to Yale? Yeah, cool. I went to Yale too, and it's so great. It's your first job, and really excited to see what you do with the part, and that'll be good. And he's especially on set, he's so focused. He's not a totally vivacious, extroverted presence on sets. But that whole time I was on the show, he made sure that I was a part of it, and he insisted on my being a part of it. And there were times where I wasn't in an episode, and he would be like, Jessie, the writer, Jessie, I do think that Jess would be here for this. So I got written into a bunch more episodes that I wouldn't have been in. And he's so rigorous, and he does his homework so thoroughly. And that really kept me on my toes, and he gave me all these gifts, things to think about, things to research, things that I could talk about in the interstitial spaces between the lines of dialogue. And so I feel like he gave me this whole world that I could imbue into the character, who on paper is really not a really big part. It's kind of, wallpaper energy. But because of the way that he treated me, and because of the things he asked of me and sometimes demanded of me on set, I really felt essential. And I felt like I had to be on my toes because of him. And that was a huge gift. I'll be grateful forever.
Well, we're grateful to you, Juliana. Thank you so much
Thank you, James. Thanks for
this
having us.
conversation.